Hey everybody, welcome back to another fun and exciting Algebra 1 class. Today we are going to be learning about point-slope form, a little bit different from last class. Last class we learned about the slope-intercept form. Basically just another form of the line equation, just another way to write it. And really this has a lot to do with the information that you're getting. So for example, if I have the slope and the y-intercept, then I would want to use slope-intercept form. But if I had a point and the slope, so now this time I don't have the y-intercept, I just have another random point, then I would use the point-slope form. Okay. So if you look on page 110, you'll see there it says lesson 3.5, point-slope form. Okay. And so, if you will, look down here at the screen. I'm writing it point-slope form. Now, it looks a little different, but I want you to try to remember back. And this is where just the other day we did y equals mx plus b. And this was the y-intercept form. So now we're going to change it just a little bit. Remember when I said, let's go back to this right here. Remember when I said that the y and the x are just y and x points? Okay. So watch what happens, and then I'm going to this is not point-slope form. This is slope-intercept form. Okay, but bear with me for just a second. Let's say that I have a slope of m equals 4. That's what the example gives you. And the point is 2, 5. Well, what do I do with that 2 and the 5? Well, last class I said this y and this x are just points. And that's exactly what we're going to do here. We're going to substitute those in. Whoops, that's the x. So that goes here. There's the y. It goes here. And here is the m, and it goes here. Okay? So I'm just going to plug all those different things in. So what does that look like? Again, be patient with me because this is not point-slope form. This is y-intercept form. I'm showing you how to go from y-intercept to point-slope. Okay, and so in other words, I'm just kind of plugging all of this in. So let's just look at it first, and then we'll go back to what is point-slope form. So the y is 5 equals, the slope is 4, the m is 4, the x is 2, and we don't know, in this case, we don't know the y-intercept, it's just b. Okay? And this is interesting right here because we can find what the b is. In other words, we can solve for b. Interesting. How do we solve for b? Well, let's just start solving the equation. 5 equals 8 plus b. We're now going to subtract 8 from both sides, and we're going to get negative 3 equals, that will cancel, b. What is b? B is the y-intercept. So the y-intercept for this one is negative 3, or the b equals negative 3. Okay? And so from that's one of the things I love about the y-intercept. This is y-intercept form right here. From y-intercept form, we can find out a lot of different things. And so you can actually use the y-intercept form to figure out what your slope is. But remember, we want point slope. And so we didn't even need the y-intercept. I just wanted to show you that, and the example shows you that as well. So what if they don't give me the slope, for example? Well, I have to find the slope, and we know how to find slope. The formula for slope is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Remember that formula we had a few lessons ago? Make sure that you know that. That is how to find the slope. Well, the next one, the one that this lesson is all about, and this is on page number 111 in your book if you're following along, this is point slope. All right, and like I said before, I didn't when I wrote point slope form, I showed you y-intercept. But so this up here, this is not point slope. Okay, this is slope intercept. I just showed you that to show you that we can find, if we don't have the y-intercept, we can find it from that. All right, but here, point slope form, write this down. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. All right, now, this one's a little bit tricky, but, and here's what makes it tricky. These make it tricky right here. So you're probably wondering, what is that? What's the y and the y1? Okay, and I'm going to show you in just a second. If you look down, what if they give me something like this? They say, let's go back to the original one that we did up here, where we used the slope-intercept form. They gave you that the slope is 4 and the point is 2, 5. So let's go back to this. And so the slope, I'm just going to write m equals 4. And our point, I'm going to call it point 1, is 2, 5. Well, what this is right here, this point 1, it's these right here. It's y1 and x1. Okay? So the point that they give you, you're going to substitute it in for those ones right there. Don't substitute in for these ones. Okay? We want to substitute in for the point 1 right here, the y1 and the x1. So where we see the slope, we're going to put that in right there. Now this is point 1, so this is the x. The 2 is the x. So the 2 would go here with the x, and then the 5 would go over here with the y, with the y1, because that is point 1. Okay, so let's just go ahead and substitute all that in. Y minus, what is the y? It's 5 equals m is 4 times x minus 2, because this is the x1. Okay, so that's our formula right there. That's our plugged in formula. That's where we put everything into it. Now we need to solve it. What are you solving it for? Well, this is interesting. I'm solving it for y because I want to get y equals mx plus b, basically. And you'll see how this turns out. First thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to distribute this. So I get y minus 5 equals 4x minus 8. Now this is where this formula gets a little bit tricky. What is the goal of this formula? The goal of point slope is y-intercept. Y equals mx plus b. That's the goal. That's where we're going to. Okay. So this is what we want it to look like. So when I go over here and I add 5, okay, I am going to add it to this right here. All right, so I'm going to add my 5, and so that's going to cancel, and I'm going to get y equals 4x minus 3. And that is going to be my slope. Here's what I did. Using point slope form, using this right here, using this point slope form, what did I do? I converted this information right here. Slope is 4, point is 2 and 5, into the y-intercept form or the slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. I turned it into y equals mx plus b. Look, there's our y, there's our m, there's our x, and there's our b. Y equals mx plus b. So you say, Mr. Steve, what's the answer to this? This is weird. Okay, well, the answer to this one is this. Kind of. That's part of the answer. That's the first step to the answer. Now, what's the next step to the answer? Well, the next step to the answer is putting it onto the graph. How do we put it onto the graph? Well, we graph using y-intercept form. Remember, this is the y-intercept, and so it's going to be -3. 1, 2, 3. So we're going to have a point here at -3 because that's where it intercepts the y-axis. Okay, -3. And then our slope is 4, or don't forget, it's always 4 over 1. We have to run that one time. So let's go over here like this, and we'll say we're going to run 1, and then we are going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, because that's our y. And then I should put one here like this. All right, so this is our line, and so we would come through and draw our line right there. It's not really that great, but oh well. Okay, so there's the pink line. And so you just connect those dots with your line. You'd use a straight edge. I didn't use my straight edge. So, okay, and so that's the answer. Graphing it is the answer. Okay, the equation is part of the answer. You need to get it into y-intercept form or slope-intercept form, and then you put it onto the graph. Let's look at another example here. The example on top of page number 112. It says the slope of the line is -5 over 2, and the point, we're going to call that P1, point 1, is 2, 1. Now don't forget this is always written XY, okay, and that's important. So that's going to be X1, that's going to be Y1. XY, that's how you write that. So let's come over here, and we want to we want to turn that into slope-intercept form. We want to get that into y equals mx plus b. So this is where we're going. Y equals mx plus b. Well, some of you are like, well, I'm just going to plug the slope in right there, and I'm going to plug the y in. No. That's not how we do these. It doesn't come out right because it doesn't come out to the slope-intercept form that way. You have to use point-slope form. Why? Because I have a point and I have slope. This is called point-slope form. And the way that you do that is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay, that's our point-slope form. So now we are going to plug into that. That's the slope, and so it goes right here. This is the x point. Look, that's the x point. Okay, so it goes here to x1, and this is the y point, and so it goes here to y1. So this is going to come out to y minus 1 equals m is -5 over 2 times x minus x1 is 2. Now, some of you are losing your mind right now because we're dealing with a fraction. Don't lose your mind. Slope is a fraction a lot of times. You should know how to use a fraction by now. You're in algebra class. Okay? So we are going to now distribute this. Y minus 1 equals, well, this is just -5 over 2x. And notice we have a minus times a minus, so this is going to come out positive. Just come over here and do it if you can't do it in your head. And remember, we're distributing, so we're multiplying 2 over 1. That would give me 10 over 2. What's 10 over 2? It's 5. Okay, so 5 over 2 times 2 is 5. Or 10 over 2, which reduces to 5. Notice that we had the minus, so we end up with the plus. Now we're almost in slope-intercept form, except for we have to deal with this. So we need to add 1 to both sides. That's going to cancel. We're going to get y equals -5 over 2x plus 6. And now that would put us in slope-intercept form. Or that would put us in, I'm sorry, that would put us in, yeah, I said that right. Slope-intercept form. I don't know why. So we went from point slope, now we're in slope-intercept form. Why do we want to get to slope-intercept form? Why is that the goal? Why are we trying to get to that? So now we can graph it. Okay, so we'd come over here, and let me change the color here so you can see it just a little bit better. And we would graph this thing. we would graph up to a positive 6, because this is our 6 on our y. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have, that's our b, that's our y-intercept. And then we have a negative 5 over 2. I mean, you can go whichever way that you want to go here. But we're going negative, so we have to go either the numerator negative or the denominator negative. Typically, I go the numerator negative, so I'm going to go negative 5. That's the y. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. So there's our next point right there. And then we can go ahead and draw our line there. Well, maybe. Let me try that again. That's a terrible. Sorry. Okay, that's all you got. It's like a little wave, but pretend it's a line. Pretend it's straight. Okay, and so that would be how you would graph that one. So if you didn't understand that, just watch it again, rewind it, and try to understand what's going on there. All right, one more thing before I let you go here is I want to show you the point slope when it gives you 2 points. So let's say that the question says, okay, here's point 1, and it's 2, 1. And here's point 2, and it's 4, negative 5. How in the world am I going to do point slope form? Remember, point slope form is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Well, how am I going to do that if I don't know my slope? How am I going to do that if I don't know my slope? Well, figure out your slope. What is the slope formula? Okay, you should know this. The slope formula is y2 minus y1 over. Okay? And so, remember, this is the x and this is the y. This is so important that you remember which one's the x and which one's the y. This is the point 1, this is the point 2. So the y2 would be negative 5 minus 1. Negative 5 minus 1 over. The x2 is the 4 and the minus 2. So it would be 4 minus 2. So again, we're finding out our slope. This is m equals, slope equals. What is 5 minus 1, or negative 5 minus 1? That's a negative 6 over 4 minus 2 is 2. So we would have our slope equals, and we want to reduce that to lowest terms. And so when we reduce that, we would get m equals negative 3 or negative 3 over 1. I like negative 3 over 1 better. It works better for me. But if you want to just write it negative 3, that's fine. That also works. So now we have our slope. So now what do? Now we can plug our slope in right there. And we can plug everything else in. So remember, we're still using point 1. And so now we're just going to plug everything in. Y minus y1 is 1. Equals, our slope was negative 3. Our x minus our x1 is 2. And then we would just solve that equation right there. Let me get rid of some of this. We would just go ahead and solve this equation, and we would distribute right there. So we get y minus 1 equals negative 3x plus 6. And then we would add 1 to both sides, and that would cancel out. We'd get y equals negative 3x plus 7. And that would be our answer. Y equals negative 3x plus 7. And the way that we would do that is basically just following our steps. The first thing that you would need to do is, if they don't give us the point and the slope, then you have to figure out the slope. Use your slope formula. That's why I gave it to you, so that you could use it, so that you could figure it out. So use the slope formula, figure out the slope. M equals, right here, we got, basically we plugged it into the formula here, and then we got this, and then we reduced it out to m equals negative 3. I take the negative 3, and I plug it in right there. So there's your negative 3, and then I take the point 1, for the x, and I take the 0.1 for the y, and I plug it in right here and right here, and then I solve the point slope formula. What does it give us? It gives us slope intercept form right there. Okay? All right, I know it was a little bit longer lesson, but I wanted to get through all that stuff. And if you have any questions, make sure you go back, rewind it, review it, and try to figure it out, okay? We'll see you later. Have a good one. Bye-bye.